Welcome, fans, to another edition of Ringside Riffs featuring the Kingpin. My name is Jack Kilby, no gimmicks guy on the socials, and we're very pleased today to have a special guest, a legend in his own right, Mr. Pitbull Gary Wolf, that we'll be bringing on in just a few minutes to discuss his autobiography that's out now. There it is. It's called The Pitbull Unleashed. It's going to be an interesting discussion. As the fans know, Kingpin and Gary know each other well and have a lot to talk about the state of being a wrestler. Some of the inside stuff that maybe isn't hit up on some other works. But before we get into all of that, I've got to take the time as usual to welcome the man known as the King of the Streets, the reigning and defending HRT Hardcore Road Trip Hardcore Champion, the man known as the Kingpin, Mr. Angel Medina. Angel, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. Why do you always talk like that?
Like Fink?
No, you go, hey, fans, this is Jack Kilby. Welcome to another. Like everybody's like retarded. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
it's just my charisma that you knock all the time. It's really in an effort to show just how special it is to be doing a show with a bona fide legend like yourself, amongst others. How was Halloween for you, bro?
Oh, dude, you know the funny thing? I mean, I hate waking up early in the morning, especially when you like laying in bed with your hands in your pants, and then you wake up and just like smell that deliciousness, like that roasted nuts. It's the season. It's the truth, bro. I was like, I had to wash my hands. I was just like, I had that pecan.
There we go. Oversharing again. Love it.
I like oversharing, brother. I didn't have my coffee. You know what I mean? This Halloween candy. I love Halloween. I feel depressed that it's gone. Not depressed. I just love Halloween. That's just like my time of the year, and stuff like that. But I mean, and then, like I said, I like to talk about ball sweat in the morning. And don't front. All you guys know when you rub it down there, you get that little sniffy sniff. Get that.
Just to make sure for medical reasons that everything's okay.
Yeah, man. If you don't got that little, little drippy drip coming out of there, you got to make sure you got to go to the doctor to get it checked out. But my shit's pristine anyway.
Sounds like a lifestyle problem there.
My man, as long as you rub it, lotions and potions, take care of it, you're on point. But I'm pretty excited. Gary's going to come on. Gary's a great guy. I love Gary. I'm excited to talk about his book. Everybody talks to me to write a book. But I mean, it's probably just be a one-pager and stuff. Maybe I'll pop up at the end. But yeah, I was doing something with this guy. Remember I told you the guy at the last show we were on with the CT is kicking in. The old man in the wheelchair with no legs. What's his name? Goldstein, Goldfinger, or what was his name? Goodman.
Oh, really? I'm not.
Yeah, dumbass. The fucking it's a super crazy money.
Oh,
Goodheart, yeah.
Joel.
Goodheart, yeah.
Joel
Go finger, go
Goodheart,
fucker.
yes.
I don't know. Go fuckery. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, like that. The guy who wanted to write a book and with me, and we were doing it for a little bit, but then he just fell off. So me, I don't chase after anybody. So nothing negative. He might come back and just say, "Hey, let's finish the rest of this book."
Well, I would suggest that there's more chapters yet to be written, and I want to point out the fact that we're counting down. We're getting close to the revenge that we're going to reap upon Big Daddy Roy, or as we like to call him, Big Daddy Oreo, for Flex Wrestling December 6th at the Mud Creek Bison Ranch. I think the last show that we did.
Keep that up. Bring that back up.
Keep it up. The last show.
I have a question. What? Okay, I'll let you finish first.
Well, I was just going to say he was very disrespectful to myself. He showed what a cretinous individual that he is, and I think he's overconfident. But boy, oh boy, do we have a lot of good stuff waiting for him December 6th. Fans, if you're in Ontario, Quebec, upstate New York, Michigan, go to flexwrestling.com. and make sure you get your tickets, because in addition to this, the first ever Flex heavyweight champion will be crowned. It's going to be a loaded show. But your
Well,
thoughts?
the only reason I was bringing up the pictures, why is it that you're like right behind me with your fingers like you're gonna check my prostate?
Well, that's something that I guess could be interpreted that way. It looks to me to be a symbol of something else. But whatever floats your boat.
Look at Big Daddy Oreo, man. It looks like he's like going goth and shit with the eye makeup. It looks like he got eye makeup on. You know, I don't know.
He's I'm not going to take anything away from him. He's a significant.
Don't take away the food. Don't take away the plate.
Well, that of course as well. But he is on a tear up here in Canada. He's collecting belts, and he's looking in the best shape that he's been in a long time. Not to take it away from him.
He's looking good. He's looking good, and I know he's collecting belts because he's trying to find the one that fits. And
oh boy.
I mean, like I said, but he's losing weight. He's doing good, and I'm not going to wash my nuts for a couple of weeks. And then when I teabag him in the ring, get him the taster's choice. And
that's amazing. By any means necessary, right? You got to come out on top.
Oh, yeah. He's just going to have like a white streak.
Such a heel. But we're going to settle that score on December the 6th, and then it's going to be on to bigger and better things. But you know who just popped on? The legend himself, the Pitbull Gary Wolf. Going to bring him right on to the stage at this juncture. Gary, thanks for coming on today, sir.
Look at that handsome guy. Look at that handsome guy.
What's up, Angel? What's happening, brother?
Doing good, buddy. Doing good, man. I'm happy that you're on. I'm excited, bro. See this smile? I don't get happy to see this other fucker, man. I get happy when I see your
face. What's up, boys?
That's amazing. Well, we wanted to we gave the fans a look at the cover of your book, The Pitbull Unleashed, but wanted to talk just at the start about Todd Gordon did the forward by yourself. Of course, you guys go way back, and understand that Todd is having some health issues, and we just wanted to shout him out and wish an immediate recovery for Todd.
I hope it's nothing serious.
Yeah, he's it's not good. He's been in the hospital probably for 4 or 5 months right now. So I know a couple of guys. Fonzie was just in Philly yesterday, visiting him at the hospital. He was in an ICU for a couple months. Now he's out of the ICU, so we're hoping for the best. I mean, I've known Todd for just about my whole career practically. And then he became my agent, me and Anthony's agent, and it's just going to be a horrible loss if something would happen. So we're just all crossing our fingers and praying that everything works out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, it's just I don't know. It's just heartbreaking every time I hear one of the boys in the hospital. It's just we're supposed to be immortal. You always think that we're all going to live forever and stuff. And when guys end up in the hospital, it just bothers you, it just bothers me every time.
No, I mean, like Sabu passed away, and I was with him the night before he passed away, and everything was fine. That's why I was extremely surprised the next day that I heard something happen to him, because, like I said, I was with him for like 3 or 4 hours, and there was nothing abnormal about when I was with him. He was straight as an arrow. I thought he was catching a flight Sunday, but he was actually said he's catching a flight Monday. So we always stay in touch, like me and New Jack. We used to always stay in touch, and believe it or not, Sandman's the same way. I mean, I get a call once a week, every 2 weeks. We do a check-in. You know what I mean? And most of the guys that still are alive from ECW, we all do check-ins to make sure we're all doing okay. And that was heartbreaking. New Jack, missing New Jack is another heartbreaking, because people don't realize, they don't really know who New Jack is. You know what I mean? And New Jack was a fucking cool motherfucking dude. I mean, he would call me up every week just to check on me, and I would do the same, vice versa. I mean, and shit happens. It's like, and he woke up, had a heart attack. I mean, it's like, come on, man.
But it's funny. I was just my daughter was talking. We were watching Dark Side of the Ring a little bit, and talking about D'Lo was talking about, hey, yeah, if you don't do something Jack tells you to do, you know, and you fuck up, it's your ass. And the scaffold match with Vic Grimes. And my daughter's like, oh, have you ever had any problem with New Jack? I said, I had this similar situation. And we were on the scaffold in one of the house shows, and I didn't know I was scared of heights. So I'm laughing, and Jack's like, I'm going to throw you off, brother. And I'm like, brother, I can't do it. I can't do it, Jack. I'm holding onto his pants on the show. And he just started laughing. And he said, brother, just throw me off. And I threw him off. And then in the back, he goes, man, you stupid, bro. You stupid. And I'm like, I never had that problem with Jack. Jack was awesome. And he's a great hell of a guy. But everybody's scared of him. You know, he has that bad rap, you know. But I just had never had that problem. He always loved us. He always took care of us. You know,
but that's because, Angel, that's because we know the real Jack. You know what I'm saying? These people think that his gimmick is really him. That's not. He's just that's his gimmick, man.
Yeah.
You know, people don't get that. You know, I mean, I go to shows and I see these young boys and back in the day, and they're like, "Oh, I got to wrestle Jack today," and they're fucking actually shitting their pants, man. When that's and really, technically, it's a night off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, it's like, get over it. Especially these new fucking guys, get over it. It's a gimmick, man. We lived our gimmick in ECW. All of us did. I mean, I don't care who you are, the Baldies, the Pitbulls, the Eliminators, we all lived the gimmick. You know what I'm saying? And we had to stay like that because we were the oddball of the wrestling community. I mean, we were the crazy guys. We were the ones that, I believe it or not, WWF guys would get done work, get cleaned up, go eat, get a shower, go to the hotel. And what did they do? I mean, Barbarian and Warlord used to tell me all the time, 2 o'clock in the morning, putting ECW on. Matter of fact, a bunch of guys would get together in one room and watch the ECW show. So the WWF guys loved watching our shit, you know, and that's just how it was. I mean, they told me flat out, they loved it. And they respected us because we just, you know, like I said, we pushed the envelope, you know, and then once we did the one night stand, I mean, Angel will tell you this, I mean, we changed the business. There wouldn't have been an attitude error if it wasn't for the ECW.
Oh, fuck yeah.
You know what I mean? Because anybody could watch that first one night stand and look at all the WWE guys up on the, you know, up in the crowd, and you know, they're in the rafters up there watching us, and their jaws were like this. Like, they were just like, how in the fuck are these guys working that hard every night, you know? And we looked at them, and I literally looked at them in the back and told them, hey, man, it's over for you guys. You have no idea. Working easy is over now. Now it's going to be the attitude era. You're going to have to work your fucking asses off. And that's what happened.
But you know what's funny is like when the Attitude Era, you know, prior to the Attitude Era, they were shitting on us, you know, saying like, you know, that hardcore shit ain't gonna last and all this stuff, and Vince is shitting on it, kind of, sort of, and then all of a sudden you're like, that's oh wow, this might be a good idea, you know, and then they run with it and making it seem like it's their idea, like they're the ones that created that style, and I'm like, it's just a bunch of bullshit, you know.
That's how Vince is, though. I mean, if he comes up with it, it's a great idea. If he don't come up with it, it's a shit idea. So I always was taught, let him think he made up the idea. Let him think he came up with it. And then it's all golden for there after that. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Yeah, Jack.
So I guess, Gary, it's a logical place to start by asking you, what was the motivating factor at this point in time to do the autobiography, and do you think fans have been surprised at some of the revelations in your book?
Yeah, a couple people were surprised about it. A couple people were surprised that I wrote a book, period. They were also surprised it was pretty good. I did it because it's a new era. My partner passed away in 2003. Since then, I've had so many people wanting to tag with me, so many people wanting to, you know, do another Pitbulls, and just wasn't ready and never found the right person. Finally found the right person now. So we decided, okay, I found a Pitbull 3. like Anthony, but this guy's even bigger. He's 300 pounds, and he's a power lifter. He's in the Guinness Book of Records as far as pulling a fire truck over a mile, pulling it, and so he got in the Guinness Book of Records for that. And I had to take him to a lot of school. I wouldn't just accept him. I had to make sure he was legit ready. So he went to a lot of schools. Susan Tex Green, Boogie Woogie Man in Virginia. I mean, he lived in a shed. He didn't care. He paid his dues, man. I mean, living in a shed with bugs everywhere just to graduate the Boogie Woogie school. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of other places he went to. So we got in the ring and we started working, and things started clicking. So somebody hit me up and wanted to do a book, and I was like, absolutely, let's go for it. I had Missy Hyatt do the back for me. She did it like what's that called?
The forward?
Yeah, I think she did the forward for me on the back of the book. I think people like it because I told them how we started. You know what I mean? We started from the same hometown, from the same school, high school together. People don't realize that we were only 45 minutes away from the Monster Factory. We didn't know that until the time came when we said we were going to join the Monster Factory. Where other wrestlers that, they have to pay their dues. And, there's so many guys like Godfather, Paul White, Bammer, a bunch of people that are not even from New Jersey originally that had to come all the way from Vegas and other states just to go to the Monster Factory. But, you look at that list and you look at that poster that they made of the Monster Factory, that everybody that graduated there, and there's 20, 30 guys that have made it. And, the factory is a legit school, and it's always legit.
I remember going to the Monster Factory, and I remember going, it was in a mall, an abandoned mall.
I think that's when King Kong Bundy was running it, I think.
Because I remember D-Lo was there.
Yes.
Balls was playing the Arabic gimmick because I remember his haircut was funky looking. And it was just a lot of boys there. I mean, it was fun, man. I mean, like I said, but it was just funny. Back in the days when you wanted to go to a wrestling school, not like today's technology where you can go on the computer and just type in wrestling, you had to like really grind and search. Because when I was wanting to get into pro wrestling, I can't remember how I had pamphlets from Canada, Stu Hart, Gulf Breeze, Florida, from Adrian Street. Then I heard about the Monster Factory, but it was too far for me to go, from New York to over there. Then I found Gleason's, from a news segment in New York City. So it was hard to find a school unless you like really dug and like been an investigator and like talk to people, and then they tell you like, hey, go to this school. This is a school down here. Look it up,
I mean, I'll tell you a quick story if you guys want to hear one about Sandman.
Sure.
All right. We were I was working for TWA at the time, probably 88, 89 in that area. We did, that show was a jam-packed show. I mean, we had Ric Flair, Buddy Landel, Abdul the Butcher, among other people, like big names on that show. Mm-hmm. And I remember me and Anthony shared a locker room with actually Ric Flair and Abdul the Butcher. And we did a match where it was an all-weapons match. It was the opening match of the show. So that's how extreme we were already. And it was an all-weapons match with like 25, 30 guys in it. Long story short, me and Anthony got over. Anthony took the bump over the top, put me over. And it was a good night. We were walking out of the ring, and I hear this guy yelling, "Yo! Yo!" And I turn around and look, it's fucking Sandman. But I didn't know who he was then, So he's like this. I'm like, I need to see this fucking crazy guy. I mean, that's how it was back in the day. Guys would like call you up out of the audience and say, "Come here, I want to talk to you." So he's like, "I want to do what you're doing." I started laughing. You know what I mean? I'm like, "Well, are you an athlete? I mean, what do you do?" And he goes, "I play rugby, and I'm a fucking Chippendale." So I'm like, I'm like, okay. Plus he stood up and I'm like, damn, dude's pretty fucking tall. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, he goes, I want to do this. And you know how many times and how many people I've heard this come out of their mouth and they don't do shit, you know? So instead of saying, go to the Monster Factory, I was like, all right, well, look, I said, Tri-State Wrestling Alliance has their own school called, it's Joel Goodhart School. You know, there's a bunch of guys there training guys. I said, and, you know, they're part of this company. So if you do go to that school, you'll be in the TWA right away. That's before it became ECW. So I took off like we were always doing, going back to Japan. So we went to Japan. I just remember I blew my knee in Japan against Lager, Thunder Lager. I would do, if we'd go for 3 weeks, I'd have at least 6 or 7 matches with Lager, and we would do 45-minute matches, which was insane back in them days because it was rough in New Japan. It's not like the pussy shit they're doing now. It was strong style, and we beat the shit out of each other. So I remember I came home, I had to get knee surgery. My partner went to Germany to work for Otto, and I was home and I had to recover. So I just remember 2 o'clock in the morning, one night I see Eastern Championship Wrestling. I was like, what the fuck are they doing on TV? Like I had no idea, you know, because I've been in Tokyo for a while. So I remember the next day I called up Sandman and I called up Todd Gordon. And they're like, yeah, we got TV. And I seen Sandman on TV. And I was just like, I can't believe he actually really did it. Like he went to school, he learned. You know, that's when he had the fucking surfboard and he was wearing the O'Neal fucking, you know, water suit and shit.
His balls must have been sweating in that shit.
Oh, brutally. So I was just like, well, I was very happy because at least he did what he said he was going to do, you know, and I was in shock, you know. So, next thing you know, man, they come to the arena. I mean, if you're healed up, you know, don't worry about your partner. He's in Germany. Let him stay in Germany. Just come to the arena. So I went back to the arena, and ECW was my home, you know, from the big get-go. Before it was ECW, it was Tri-State. So I just remember walking in the door. This was when Eddie was on his way out. Eddie Gilbert was just leaving, and Paulie was just coming in. And I met Paul, and I was just training my ass off and recovering. So like every time they would see me every week, they'd like come back every week. I just kept growing and growing and growing. And within 3 months, they offered me the TV title for the television belt, which was, I don't know why, because they really never even heard me cut a promo until I went to New York and they offered me the belt, you know, and I didn't even want the belt. I told them no. And Paul's face was just like, what? Because I said I'm a tag team. You know what I mean? I mean, I wrestle singles. I can. That's not a problem. I said, but I'm a tag team. I really didn't get it. You know what I mean? I was still kind of green, you know, in my eyes, I was anyway. And next thing you know, he convinced me to take the belt. And I was very fortunate and glad I did. And my partner even won the TV belt. You know, not many tag teams, both guys won a television title at the same time having tag team titles. So I thought it was a good idea because look at you look at the tag team title. I mean, look at the belt and the guys that had that TV belt. There is no belt that has that kind of talent behind it, I feel, in wrestling history as far as the television titles. You know, you got Eddie Guerrero, you got Dean Malenko, you got Jericho, you got Benoit. You know, you have all these people, Doug Furnace, you have all the Rob Van Dam, Sabu, Shane Douglas. You got all these people that had that TV title. And there's not many of them, maybe 25 guys, but they are all top guys. So being in that category, we were very happy to be in that category. And as soon as Anthony was done, I remember Paul Heyman said, is he home? I said, yeah. He goes, call him up, tell him to come down. You know, and then eventually that's when they put us together as the Pitbulls. And we were pretty much Paul Heyman's fucking, you know, we were his hood fucking guys. You know, he said, go kick that guy's ass. That's what we did. You know what I mean? I mean, every tag team that came in that ECW arena had to go through us. We were the first tag team they had to wrestle. And we set the pace. We set the you know, the momentum of what's going on in our company, you know, and Paul would pull us aside. How were they? You know, we would tell them the truth, you know, either they were good or they sucked. And we made sure it was very clear, you know. So other than that, I mean, we had
so basically we're the original APA, man, the originators of just beating the brakes off of people.
Yeah, I mean, we were pulling moves out of our hats that people haven't. I don't know if you've seen somebody sent me a thing from South Atlantic where we did a double shoulder breaker, and the guy was just like, "Oh shit!" And I have not seen any tag team do that move. You know, we're talking from the early, the late '80s. You know, and I haven't seen anybody to this day do that move, and so I'm bringing that move back. That'll be our setup move before the Super Bomb, put it that way.
We've got a number of fan questions that folks sent in. If you don't mind, I'll just hit you with a couple of them now. One fan is asking about turning down Vince McMahon for a run up in New York, and the truth behind that. I think you discussed that in your book as well, but just your perspective on that, because you would think the Pitbulls would be tailor-made for that company.
Well, we wrestled the sorry, we were actually working for Vince in '88 and '89 while we were going to wrestling school. Cowboy Bob Orton came down and he would look for talent for Vince. He was like a little talent scout. So he went to the Monster Factory. A lot of guys from Vince would always go to the Monster Factory just to look around and see who's in there. And they came down, they saw us, and they asked Larry, "Look, you know, why don't you start bringing these guys up to Vince, and they could do TV?" So we went up to Vince's. I remember it was me, my partner, and Johnny Hotbody. We all drove in a car. It was an 8-hour ride all the way to Niagara Falls, and we made it there. And I just remember Scully, the old man with the briefcase, and he had a pack full of money, and he'd give us $150 a night plus food plus hotel, which back then was great because we were still green as grass. You know, we were learning. But we got in the ring with the Hart Foundation, and they put me and Anthony together. We weren't even really thinking about being a tag team at that point yet. You know, we were just working out at the school, you know, and next thing you know, the Vince put us together. We went against the Hart Foundation. Vince and Gorilla Monsoon were actually doing the commentary. Gorilla was tapping Vince on the leg because he told us the whole time. He's like, "Look at them two. You know, they're young, but look at their built already. I mean, they've already been in the gym," because we were going to be bodybuilders. We were trying. I was training with Johnny Jackson, who's a professional bodybuilder, one of the strongest bodybuilders in the world, to be honest with you. And you know, that's what we wanted to do until we realized that, you know, there's not much money in bodybuilding, you know, and we snuck, like I said, we snuck in and did security for Vince in Wildwood, New Jersey, when they were filming Raw. You know, it was just a tape. And we got in the ring with me, my partner, Crybaby Waldo, and Andy Bernowski, who is now, he works in Hollywood. He's the Leatherface for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So we were all boys, you know, and we were in the ring bouncing around. Dick Worley was watching us and just laughing because we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. The ring beat the shit out of us. I couldn't even work out for 2 weeks. That's how sore I was. But I remember Dick Worley, I sat down next to him and he looked at me and said, "Man, who's that big blonde?" Which was Andy. And he's like, "Man, that guy's going to be the next Hogan." And I'm like, "Nah, man." I said, he ain't going to want to do this. Like, I don't want to do this. I said, that ring's too bad. You know, it hurts too much. And our bodies were soft. You know what I mean? Once you get in the business, Angel will tell you, you become a rock. You know, a guy could come up to us and punch us in the face. I laugh at his ass, then headbutt him and knock his fucking teeth down his throat. You know what I mean? I could give it two shits, but we were soft back then. You know, so what we did was we just started practicing moves in the, you know, out in the beach, because I had a cheesesteak place between Maury's Pier and Hunt's Pier in Wildwood, New Jersey, man. And we would go out there in 3-foot water and started doing suplexes and just messing around. You know, we didn't know what we were doing. And then next thing you know, summer's done, and Anthony said, "I'm going to go join the Monster Factory." And then I did a month later. So like I said, we went to Vince, and Gorilla was like, "Look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to hire you guys. I know you're still going to school and we want you to keep going to school, but you're going to work for us when we're in the tri-state area. So New York area, Philadelphia, New Jersey, that's when we work for Vince McMahon. So we had a job. I mean, and every weekend that they were in that area, you know, he would pay us $150 a night. So we were making $300 for the weekend, all food taken care of, all trans taken care of, hotel taken care of. And that's when I started really learning how to work. You know, when you get in the ring with the Rougeau brothers and the Hart Foundation and, you know, the Powers of Pain, and we got to wrestle all the tag team. We were in the locker room in the 80s, okay? And everybody would say to us, man, you guys should have been born like 5 or 6 years early, man. This would have been your spot. You know what I'm saying? That's what they would say to us. And what happened was we learned how to work, not only from the wrestling school, but going up there getting experience. You know, like I'll tell you, like I wrestled, they split us up one night and they put me against the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, you know, and I'm like 18, 19 years old. You know, when I met him, Ted DiBiase was a big man. Okay. I'm looking at all these guys and I'm like, damn, they're all giants and monsters. Everybody was big. Like they had no testing at that time. So the guys were like, it was like an ECW locker room, Angel, put it that way. But It was in the 80s, okay, over there. So they were getting away with murder, doing whatever they wanted. It was insanity. I'd walk in a bathroom and I see Rick Rude walking around with a $100 bill in his ear. I see, you know, the Barbarian and Warlord giving each other shots of testosterone. You know, they would hit 3 cc's of test every day. I'm like, holy shit, you know. But it was good because, like I said, they gave us experience, you know. And then finally Vince came up to us the one day and said, listen, I'm calling Larry up and I'm going to give you 2 choices. You can go to Portland or you can go to North Carolina, Charlotte, and work with Paul Jones and George Scott and get 6 nights a weekend because we're going to hire you guys. And I'm like, oh, fucking A, let's go. You know, so I said, I'll take North Carolina because it only took us 8 hours to get there from Philly. I drove straight there and I woke up George Scott at 3:30 in the morning. That's how cocky we were. Okay. He yelled at, I never got yelled at like that, man, in my life. You know what I mean? This guy went off. He's like, how dare you, motherfucker, waking me up at 3:30 in the morning? I said, look, I got $30 in my name. My partner's got $30. I don't want to sleep in my fucking car. He's like, that's too fucking bad. You're going to have to, you know? So I was lucky that, you know, he's like, you did it once. Don't ever do it again. Got us a hotel room. And then the next day he's like, all right, you guys got to find your own place. And that's what we did, you know? And before you know it, we ended up, me and my partner were like the only guys that rented an apartment there because in North Carolina at that time, we got a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment with a tanning bed, a pool, you name it. There were townhouses for $485 a month. I mean, it was great, you know. So we said, screw the hotel. We're going to get an apartment. And that's what we did. And we stayed there. And, you know, we got the experience we needed with Paul Jones and George Scott. You know, they made us baby faces first. And then we ended up turning heel, which was great. They put us with the stud stable with Robert Fuller and Matt Bourne and the U.S. Male. The Nasty Boys happened to come in right after us, and they were like, you know, automatically the Nasties came from Florida and they were heels. You know, we turned them babyface. You know, they weren't too happy about that, you know. So eventually, you know, George Scott and Paul Jones said, all right, I'm going to have 2 tag team heels, you know, because back then you got to realize everywhere we were, we had the tag belts. I don't care if it was Puerto Rico. I don't care where we were. Australia, we had the belts, Japan. So he's like, okay, you know, you guys are the heels, work it out. And because I couldn't stand being a baby face. I just couldn't stand it. We were natural heels. And we were lucky because, you know, there were still territories around when we got into business. So we were able to go to Jeff Jarrett's territory and work 6-7 nights a week. We were able to go to Jerry Lawler's territory, work 6-7 nights a week. You know, and then, like I said, the last territory was South Atlantic, which, you know, you got Ken Shamrock there, Katanka, Ricky Steamboat, you know, guys like that coming in. Flair, I would see every morning at the gym, at Steamboat's gym. So, that gave us a lot of experience. And then that helped us out a lot because you got the Malenkos that would come in from Japan. You got the Fantastics that would come in from Japan. Yeah. We were working with New Japan, South Atlantic. So, the Rock and Roll Express would come in. What they would do is go back to Japan, and Japan would ask them, any talent, you see any talent there? They would put us over. And we were, like I said, we were still green, but they were putting us over because we had the look, we had the gimmick. They loved our gimmick. And before you know it, Tokyo Joe was knocking on our door. He would come and visit us, watch us. If he didn't like what he saw, he would tell us. So after like 2 or 3 times, visiting us, once we were done with South Atlantic, we were in Philadelphia. Next thing I know, I get a phone call, and it's Tokyo Joe, which I had no idea he had his own school and he was a trainer. I thought he was just an agent at the time. Because he was crazy, man, very, very nuts about women. Like we were at the Sheraton in Philadelphia where Miss America pageant was being held in Atlantic City. All the girls stayed in that hotel. And I'm like, dude, you're going to get us arrested if you keep trying to grab these girls, because that's how he was. He was nuts. But they gave us a contract, and it was a good contract. I mean, I never saw $2,500 a week before. Like, I was like, what? One of my checks I had working, especially for Tri-State Wrestling Alliance, lowest check I ever got was a $15 check, from Todd Gordon. And I took it and smiled, because I was, we were green. But I went to Vince McMahon and said, listen, I appreciate it. You want us, and I want to work here. But look at this contract that New Japan gave us. Can you match this contract? Can you match that? And he's like, hell no, I'm not going to match that. You have to earn your money here, And I was like, okay, I understand totally. And Gorilla just pulled me aside and said, listen, guys, go to Japan. You tried to pull, a hard thing on Vince. He ain't going to put up with that shit. You know what I mean? He's going to pay you what he thinks you deserve to be paid, and you're going to like it, and you got a great opportunity. There's some guys in this locker room right now, he told me, that haven't even been to Japan yet. And we're talking about all the 80 guys, okay? So he's like, go. Because what's going to happen is when you get back, you're going to be worth more money. That's exactly what Gorilla Monsoon told us. So we went to Japan. And I admit this to this day, it was my first mistake. I should have did about a year with Vince, then I should have went to Japan. Because then I could have always went back to Vince, because they didn't want us back until 1989. I mean, actually 98 it was. And, that's when I ran into The Rock again. I met him when he was a kid. When he was an adult, he's like, come on, you got to take me out, man. I need you Pitbulls, you're going to take me out. I remember you guys playing with me football in the backyard, shit, in Hawaii, hanging out. And I'm like, dude, I can't take you out in Philly, man. You get in trouble, man, it's over, man. Your father's going to kick our ass. I don't want that to happen, man. So Shawn Michaels will be like coming up to us. Oh, man, because they knew we ran Philadelphia. Angel will tell you this. After the shows, we'd go out. We take all the boys out with us. I ran all the security in Philadelphia. So I would handle, like, if the mafia would come in to a nightclub, they would hand me $500, hand my partner $500 and say, keep an eye on us, make sure we're good. And that's how it was in Philly. We were all tight with everybody. I don't care who you were, the Wheels of Soul, every gang, the Pagans, we knew the Pagans, we knew the Hell. One of my best friends is Chuck Zito, who's president of the Hells Angels in New York. So, it was like I'd be friends with everybody, so then we have no problems with everybody, and they all respected us. So Angel will tell you, we'd go out after a Saturday night at the arena, man, and the whole fucking locker room would be at a nightclub having a blast. And we got everything we wanted, we would get. I don't care if there was a line 2 blocks long, bro. We would go right to the front of the line and go right in the nightclub, and nobody said shit about it because they couldn't. Like I said, we ran the security. I had 20 guys underneath me, and they're all big fucking dudes. And they would work at all the nightclubs. Yeah, I hired Paul White to work Delilah's Den front door, just so when people would walk in, they see this giant and be like, I ain't doing shit in here because look at the size of this motherfucker, And that's all I told him. That's all you got to do is sit there at the front door. Because we would work with ex-football players like the Philadelphia Eagles. my one boy, Mike Scott, was, he was 485-pound ex-football player. I walked into Lila's one night and he seen me and my two boys and he's like, yo, you want to work here? I'm like, you're going to pay me to work here? And look at naked bitches? He's like, yeah. I said, hell yeah, I'll do it. And before you know it, I ended up running everything. So I became assistant to him, and one thing led to another, man. So Philly was our fucking stomping grounds, man. The Pitbulls ran it, and every single wrestler that would come in, I don't care who they were, even Jerry Lawler would be like, yo, you guys, I want to go out with you guys after the show. And we would take them out, have a good time, But we had to be discreet. If we went out, if we took Shawn Michaels out, we knew what was going to happen. The next day, everybody was going to know what we did. So that night, I remember that night because Steve was in ECW with us for a while. And we became really good friends. He would come to my house, hang out at my house. I was only 7-8 blocks away from the arena, my house. So I redid my whole entire house, made this huge bar. And we were partying our asses off. Rick Rude, you name them, they were at my house. And then we would end up at the arena. So that night, we just stayed with Steve Austin. I remember because we were sitting at a table at the Sheraton, and it was me, Steve, my partner, and JBL. And JBL's at the table crying. And we're like, I go, Steve, what's wrong with him? Why is he fucking crying? I don't understand. This is when they were doing that boxing thing. Brawl for all or something like that. So that night, JBL got knocked the fuck out. I think it was by Billy Gunn, or his partner. Bart. Yeah. Bart knocked him out. They thought JBL was going to win. That's what they were. Well, it was Dr. Death was the guy they were pushing, but that ended up, falling apart. So then they were like, okay, JBL will win it. But they didn't realize that Bart is a bad motherfucker. So he knocked him out. And I just remember looking at JBL and I'm like, well, how much money did you make? And that's when Steve lifted his head up and was like, yeah, motherfucker, how much money did you make? And he's like, I made $65,000. And I just remember putting my drink down and Anthony putting his drink down, and we're looking at Steve, and I'm like, this bitch is crying because he made $65,000 in one night. I said, I remember Steve just told him, get off, leave my table now. That's how Steve said it. Leave my table now, you son of a bitch. Okay? Because you're sitting here bitching about $65,000. These two guys here, they ain't making that kind of money, and they work their asses off because I've been in ECW. I've seen it. Steve said it straight up. So we stayed with him that night, and it was just better off that way,
Your book delves into a lot of the human side of the business from your perspective that I don't think some fans really appreciate. I know, Angel, you wanted to ask a specific question along those lines.
What was the question?
Related to loss? Relationship?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's hard to lose somebody in your life and stuff. But yeah, I mean, in wrestling, it's hard to stay in relationships and stuff like that. And did you ever have any issues of keeping, since you're traveling a lot and hard to keep a lady to with you?
Oh, that being a wrestler, the hardest thing is finding a woman that's going to put up with your shit. You know what I mean? And that's the honest to God truth. So
true.
What I tell young kids now is don't worry about the bitches. They're going to come. You know what I'm saying? They'll be there. I said, just get your career started first. Like the old school guys used to tell me, Gary, as soon as you have the money, buy a house, cash. I don't care what it takes. I don't care where it is. This way, if something ever happens and you lose you're not going to be in a hotel. You're not, even though it happened anyway, you're not going to be homeless. You understand what I'm saying? Because, our life, we're like a bunch of carnies, man. I mean, we're definitely carnies. I mean, we live in hotels. We wrestle in different cities every night. I mean, it's a rough job. People don't understand it. You can't do this job if you don't have the right frame of mind, and you have to be somewhat athletic. So I don't care what. I mean, if you noticed, the WWE is not even looking at regular people anymore. They're looking at all athletes now. you know, like especially like U.S. Olympic athletes, you know, and they're bringing them in like crazy. I mean, I'm friends with Tatanka Chris Chavis, who lives 10 minutes from me now because I'm in Florida, and his two kids, they're going to be signing for Vince very soon for WWE, you know, and one of them's only 14, 15 years old, but he came in second in Sports Illustrated Top Athletes of the Year, you know, and he came in number 2 out of 300,000 people. You know, that's very impressive. And he's beating men. That's how good of a wrestler he is. He beats men. He beats college athletes, man. Beats the shit out of them. You know, he wins 3 years in a row, one of the toughest shoot wrestling competitions there is in the United States. He won it 3 years in a row. And then he goes and wrestles guys because he's, believe it or not, he's 215 and he's 16 years old. You know, he was wrestling 190. Now he's 215 and he's beating guys that are grown men that are 215. And it's amazing, you know. So, you know, I just remember Chavis telling me, you know, man, these fucking guys now are making millions, bro. They're getting, you know, top dogs are making $9 million a year for Vince, you know, and the regular guys are still bringing in $3 million a year. You know, this is great. You know, at first he's like, he wants his kids going to college because colleges are begging. You know, his other son is like 21. He was going to Michigan to play football until he hurt his knee. So the other one, I mean, he's got like every college in the country wants him, but now that WWE and Triple H saw him, you know, and they're going to school right now. They go to Natalie's and TJ's school in Orlando once a week. So they're already getting started, man. So, you know, even though, you know, he was saying I wanted my kids to go to college, he's like, I can't turn down the money. I got to let my kids do what they want to do. So they want to go work for Vince. So they're already being trained. And that's how it is over there, you know.
Hey, real quick question. You know, since you and Anthony were tagging, I mean, was there any plans for you guys to go to WWE during your ECW run? Was it like right there you guys were talking before anything happened?
When we were in ECW, we honestly, at that point, we didn't want to go to Vince. We wanted to go to WCW. That's where we wanted to go. You know, Kevin Sullivan was our boy, and he was there. I was going to go with Raven when he first left ECW, but Perry Saturn took my spot because I blew my knee and I had to get knee surgery. Mm-hmm. So I was going to be in Raven's flock, and I was going to go there. And we were just, you know, we were kind of almost next to the Baldies. Baldies were probably the last tag team that were hanging there. Yeah. We were like almost the second to last because I remember I was sitting home and I got a phone call, and it was Eric Bischoff. It was Bischoff on the phone, Terry Taylor, Raven, Kevin Sullivan, and Diamond Dallas Page. And they were all on a 5-way phone call with me. And they're like, so you guys ready or what? And we're like, fuck, we've been ready. And he's like, okay, we're going to bring you guys in. You're going to go against the Steiners for the pay-per-view, which is going to be the December pay-per-view for Christmas. We're going to put you against the Steiners. We're going to drop the belts on you because they wanted to use us as heels and, you know, have the babyface chase us because that's old school. That's the way they wanted it. And we were down. You know, they gave us a great deal. You know, they wanted us first to go night to night, but Kevin Sullivan was a friend of ours, and he, you know, would tap me on the shoulder. You know, he would say, no, Gary, you don't do night to night because they could fire you any night. You know, you signed that 3-year deal, and they were going to give us $1.5 million for 3 years. That was our deal. And we would have probably signed another 3 years and then retired. That was our plan, you know. But then I just remember Bischoff saying, call me Monday. I'm going to give you your flight information. You have to move out of Philly, though, and either move to Atlanta or Florida. And we were like, shit, we'll move in Florida. No problem. There's no problem here with that. And then before you know it, I made the phone call and asked Bischoff for my flight. And that's when he said, are you sitting down? And I'm like, why? What's wrong? And he's like, well, Vince McMahon just bought everything from WCW. Ted Turner sold everything, and we cannot sign any new talent. So if I would have got signed the week before, I would have been signed with WCW. And when Vince bought him, he would have either had to use us or we would have just sat home for 3
Collecting,
years
yeah.
and collected a check. You know what I mean? Which I didn't care either way. You know what I'm saying? But I was heartbroken, man, because I mean, he just stole my retirement. It's
Yeah.
pretty much what Vince did. He stole my retirement, man. So what we did was Vince asked us to come back one more time in '98. We worked the Headbangers, made it to TV. It was a great match, easy night. You know, they liked everything. They were going to put Terry Reynolds with us as a manager, and everything was set. And then next thing you know, man, I never got a call back, you know, and I kept asking Larry, what the fuck are they doing? You know, they were all down for it. And I guess they were a little nervous because we were hardcore, you know, and they knew we partied, you know, they knew with the Pitbull's reputation was crazy and we didn't care. And, you know, next thing you know, then I got a phone call, you know, from Kevin Sullivan that said Purple Haze is going to be in Australia, in Melbourne, running hardcore championship wrestling, you know, and there's going to be big guys there. I mean, the Bruise Brothers were there. The Road Warriors were there. The Samoans were there. As far as tag teams, top tag teams were there. Nails was there. He was the heavyweight champ. There was a bunch of guys there. It was really, really a good company. We would work 4 nights a week, you know, flying to Brisbane, Adelaide, Sydney, back to Melbourne. They paid for everything. All we had to do was pay for our food. So it was a great gig. I lived there for almost a year. I was going to move to Melbourne because if that company would have stayed running, you know, we were set. You know, I was set. You know, making the money we were making. You know, we were bringing in almost $3,000 for 4 nights of work. I mean, and I didn't have to pay for. I didn't have to pay for where I lived or anything. They paid for that. You know, like I said, and we would do our. Yeah, whatever we did for TV, we would do at the casinos to make it look even more better. And the casino guys would mark out and give me and Anthony VIP cards so we could walk in there and eat at any restaurant we wanted for free. So it was like, dude, I was sending $900 to a couple $1,000 home every week, you know, because I didn't need the money because I was just banking it, you know. And that's when I was like, you know, I was just being like, what the fuck, man? So I might want to move here. I mean, the cops didn't even carry guns in Australia. That's how beautiful it was. You know, Melbourne was like a New York City, but a cleaner, nicer New York City. You know what I'm saying? That's how it was. And next thing I know, I mean, I just remember one day I woke up and somebody was banging on my door. Opened the door. It was Channel 3 guys, and they were almost crying because we would be on right after rugby. And our ratings, we were pulling in 13.5 or 30, you know, our ratings were super high. I mean, people couldn't touch our ratings. That's how good it was. So that's why I was very shocked when they were like, oh, I heard you guys are leaving because our biggest sponsor backed out on us. But like I said, we were pulling those kind of ratings on TV. So you would think we would still stay. And I remember I had to like call home and be like, you know, I had to tell the wife, don't fly down. Because I may be flying home. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what's going on because nobody told me anything. I just remember going upstairs, banging on Mark's door, you know, and you don't bang on Mark Lewin's door. You know what I'm saying? But I did because I was like, dude, nobody told me anything. You know, this is crazy, you know? And that's when he said, yeah, we're going to close ship. The guy that's pulling out. And I'm just like, I don't understand. We're pulling 13s. Like I said, our ratings were so high. I don't understand why we have to close, you know. But, you know, I was there about 11 months. And then I came home. That was it, you know.
Yeah, Australia is a great place, man. That's an awesome place to stay. And even if you didn't have like you said, a place to stay, you would have found a sponsor to take care of you. So there's always an angle somewhere.
Yeah, you got to remember, man. In Australia and New Zealand, it's 7 women to 1 man. So finding a place to stay would have been no problem for the Pitbulls.
you know, the other thing I learned is that, I mean, the guys from Australia treated their women like shit. So they always thought American men, because they watch so many American movies of romance and all this crap, they always like gravitated to the American guys because the Australian men always treated their women like shit. Not knocking them, I just what I heard.
That's just the way it is. I mean, you got to remember Australia, I mean, especially New Zealand, that was a prison for the UK. They didn't have prisons in the UK. They would just throw your person on a plane and drop them off in New Zealand. Good luck, motherfucker. That's how their prison was back in the day, long time ago. You know what I'm saying? So it was just, you know, like I said, the first time I ever went to New Zealand was with Don Morocco, you know, and that was because King Curtis saw our tape. I sent King Curtis, me and Anthony's tapes, you know, a 6-minute tape. And next thing you know, King Curtis is like, man, these fucking guys are awesome, you know. And he told Don Morocco, book them. And that gave us our first break. Our first tour I ever went to was New Zealand. I'd never been out of the country. We flew all the way to New Zealand, 33 hours to wrestle the British Bulldogs in front of 55,000 people at the Olympic Stadium. And we did a 2-week tour with them. After that tour, the Bulldogs came back and they went right to Vince because they were already working for Vince. And they put the word out, you know, and the Samoans have helped us also. They put the word out. And that's when, you know, Vince came up to me and Anthony and said, listen, you know, we're doing a lot of overseas tours, but I can't let all the guys go, you know. So I just give you an example. We were in Austria, you know, and for 2-week tour, you know, the Rockers were on that tour with Marty Jannetty and all them guys, and we were working Superfly Snuka and Brutus Beefcake for those 2 weeks. So that was great experience for me and Anthony. You know what I'm saying? And we would do that anytime they wanted us to. I mean, at one point, you know, we were just working overseas, Japan, Austria, Germany, you know, all over the place, UK. I was like, I don't even give a shit about working in the United States at that point because we were doing so well. And, you know, we would go away for 2 weeks. We'd stay home for 2 weeks. And then Vince would say, all right, you got to go back on the road for 2 weeks. And we're in another country. So it worked out good for us, you know. Plus it was like the experience. That's how we learned really how to work, was being on the road with those guys, those veterans. Because I'll give you an example. I couldn't wait to be in that locker room because I wanted to meet Rowdy Piper because he was a maniac. Once I got in that locker room and I seen how the locker room was, Rowdy Piper was in front of his locker and he was the quietest guy in the locker room. Okay. And I'm thinking this guy's a maniac. No, he's a maniac when he's in his gimmick. But when he's Rowdy Piper, he's the quietest guy in the room, man. Nobody could see. I mean, it was just like, I was amazed. You know what I mean? Like I said, I got in the ring with Ted DiBiase. He hit me so hard I shit my pants. Okay, that's how hard he hit me. But I tried to pin him. Okay, that's the balls I had. You know what I mean? He gave me one spot, slingshot myself in, sunset flip him. You know what I mean? Go for the pin, 1, 2, kick out. He cuts me off. You know, that was our spot in the match, and I held him down, and he really had to kick out. So when he got up, I could see his face, how pissed he was, and he clotheslined me right across my face, like right where my nose and mouth is. And I shit my pants. Okay, that's how hard he hit me. And I remember going in the back, jumping in the shower, throwing my gimmicks away, because we had tons of gimmicks back then to change into. And I got cleaned up, and he came over because he had to get his $100 bill that Virgil, you know, they shoved it into your mouth back in the day for the finish. And he's like, give me that $100 bill back. I was like, fuck, man, I thought I was going to keep it. He's like, nah, we keep it. And he kept rubbing his face like this. And he was waiting for me to complain, you know, but I never complained. I just shook his hand and said, thank you. I appreciate it, sir. I learned a lot. Yeah, shit my pants, but I learned a lot, you know, and he just walked away. And I remember I was watching him because we were all sitting there watching him because this is how we were taught. You know, you walk in a locker room, you shake everybody's hand, you look at everybody in the eye, and you go up to the main event and shake their hand and say, thank you for the house. Okay, that's what you're supposed to do. These kids don't do that no more. They have no respect, none whatsoever. And I'm still the same way. I still do the same shit. That's just how I was brought up in the business. I mean, it sucks that, you know, when I was in the business, if you got caught in a car with guys you were working against, you would get yelled at because kayfabe was a big deal back then, a big deal. Like Angel will tell you, I'm sure he worked in Puerto Rico. You know, you had your babyface van, you had your heel van, you had your heel locker room, your babyface locker room. I didn't talk to anybody until I got in the ring. So you had to learn how to work in Puerto Rico. You know, there's no sitting in the back, you know, saying we're going to do this, we're going to do that, you know, for 45 minutes. talking about an 8-minute match. Angel will tell you we were in Canada and we were just supposed to work together. And Angel's like, what do you want to do, Garrett, tonight? What do you want to do, brother?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, sit down here with me and listen. Let's look at everybody. And we're watching all these guys. And a lot of them are ECW guys, too. I'm not afraid to say it. But everybody was sitting around going over their matches. You know what I'm saying? And me and Angel just looked at each other. And he's like, what do you want to do, dude? What do you want to do, brother? And I said, nothing. I said, you see what they're doing? We're not doing nothing. Okay, we ain't doing shit what they're doing. He goes, so what do we? I said, we call the finish, and that's it, bro. And that's how we did it. And me and Angel will tell you, we tore the fucking house down.
Yeah,
we did one spot. We did one spot. We went out of the ring. We destroyed a bunch of tables, and people had their merchandise on there. We didn't care. We destroyed the tables, man, and destroyed all the stuff they had, the merchandise. I told him when we get back in the ring, we'll go home, and that's exactly what we did. We had a 5-star match. It was cake. We worked twice that day, he'll tell you.
Yeah.
We worked 2 times that day in Canada, and I made sure we got our pay right after that first match because we had to come back and work, and I was afraid the guy wouldn't have our money. So I said, look, we ain't coming back unless you have our money now. Because I knew a couple guys didn't show up, like Sandman didn't show up. Yeah, a couple guys didn't show up because they were afraid they wouldn't get into Canada because they had records. I had a record, but they let me in because I went with Ronnie. His name was, that's Owen Hart's boy, because when I would fly to Japan, Owen was one of our guys that were in our clique. And Ronnie was a good guy from Canada, and you can always depend on him. So if I flew to Buffalo, Ronnie would jump in his van, drive the hour and a half, and come and get me from Canada, and then drive me right into Canada. With him, since he's a Canadian, they didn't mess with me. Like the last time I went to Canada, Vito was with me at the airport, and I remember he didn't want to wait. And I told Vito, I'm telling you, bro, you should wait because with Ronnie, we get right in. There's no trouble. Yeah. Vito had something up his ass. He didn't want to wait. So he jumps in a car with 6 fucking marks that are kids. And what happens? They get pulled over at the border. They had to go out of the car, sit in the border police station for over an hour and a half because we drove right through the border, right into Canada with no problems. 10 minutes later, I see this yellow car fly right by us, and that's Vito and all those marks. So they were sitting there for an hour and a half in the police station because they were checking everybody, and I told them not to do it. And that's when Vito's like, oh, on the way home, you think I could jump in the van? I said, I'll let you know, brother. I'll let you know. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. He comes downstairs with his eyebrows. He's got to put on one day he'll come down with mean eyebrows. The next day he'll come down with regular eyebrows. I'm looking at him like, what are you pissed off about? He's like, no, I just put my eyebrows on wrong. You know what I mean? Because he has that, you don't have hair. He has I forget the disease it's called, but he don't have hair, so he has to put his own
alopecia, I think it's called.
Yeah. So I fucked with him a little bit. Was like, well, listen, I'll let you know. I'll talk to Ronnie and see if he wants to allow you in the van or not. I said because only special people are allowed in the van, and you had the invitation, you turned it down. So I had to break balls a little bit. So
yeah, Vito's a trip.
Yeah.
So we have time for one more fan question that they sent in. You mentioned TWA, and as you know, we were also on that show May 3rd. But the fan where you were the mystery partner of Shane Douglas, the fan was commenting on that and wanted to know what was it about? Because if you look at all the tremendous programs in ECW, the original ECW. Yours with Shane really stands out as one of the top that there was. And the fan wanted to know about was there chemistry right away when you were working with Shane, or how did that play out that it became so compelling?
Well, first of all, we had an accident where we were doing a spot. I took the bump wrong. Okay, he didn't break my neck. I broke my own neck because I took the spot like a DDT, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have took a flat face bump. Instead, I went straight down on the top of a belt, and all I heard was da-da-da-da crack. rolled over. I was unconscious. All I could see is white. I said to myself, what the fuck was that? You know, I mean, I never jammed my neck before, ever. It's never happened. So and then I thought if I broke my neck, I'd be dead or paralyzed, you know? So I moved my fingers, I moved my toes. I was like, oh shit, I'm okay. So I rolled out real slow. You know, I had the Samoans cranking my neck in the back. Thank God they didn't try to adjust me because I would have killed me. I didn't know my neck was broken until Monday. So, you know, even Shane Douglas was like, when Todd Gordon and Stevie Richards came to visit me the next day in the hospital, you know, they called Shane and said, yo, you broke his neck. And Shane was like, get the fuck out of here. Just, you know, Todd always would rib guys and, you know, mess around with them and never be serious. But this time he was like, bro, his neck's broke. No bullshit. We just left the hospital. So I had to tell, like, once I talked to the doctor and I realized that they didn't have to do surgery on me. They just had to put a halo on my head for 6 weeks because I broke C1 vertebrae just like that. Thank God the muscle I had saved my life because I would have been paralyzed or dead from that break. I mean, there's only two things that can happen to you from that break. You know, you die or you're paralyzed. So I had 14 doctors surrounding me, scratching their head, figuring, how did this guy drive to the hospital, no less, with a broken neck? And he's still here sitting up talking to us. And he broke C1, which is very odd. So after 45 minutes of this bullshit, I finally couldn't take it no more. I'm like, look, you know, Dr. Vaccaro was the top spinal doctor at that, you know, hospital. I said, look, he was only maybe a couple years older than me, you know. So I was like, what the fuck's going on, man? You guys tell me what's going on because I'm sitting here not knowing what's going on. It's freaking me out. And he's like, look, you broke C1. But it's a clean break. Your muscle, the only thing we can come up with is your muscle locked up as soon as you broke it and kept it from moving. And if it would have moved, it would have been a different story but it didn't move. So all we got to do is throw a halo on you for 6 weeks and that bone will heal and you'll be good as new. I mean, you're going to have arthritis for the rest of your life, but at least you're alive. You know, and the first thing I said was, okay, so what does that mean? Can I get back in the ring and wrestle? He just looked at me like, you're fucking nuts. But he looked at me and said, you know what? I would give it 6 months. So I gave it 8 months. I gave myself 2 extra months. You know, nobody wanted to do the angle, bro. I went to Todd. He's like, no fucking way. Paul, no fucking way. And I'm like, come on, man. Bruno broke his neck back in the day with superstar Billy Graham. What a great angle. Why can't we do an angle with Shane? Now, you got to remember, Shane was a heel at that point, but he wasn't over as the biggest heel. Once we decided, okay, we're going to do this angle, which took a lot because nobody would listen to me. They kept saying no because they were afraid I was going to break my neck again. You know, they didn't know. I said, dude, I'm going to get in shape. We got 8 months to plan this. We got 8 months to promote this. Let's do it, you know? And I remember the first promo that Shane cut was at a swimming pool with Francine, and they were saying, come on, Gary Wolf, let's get in the pool. I bet I can whoop your ass. It's like I whoop your ass in the ring. I could whoop your ass in the pool. I could swim faster than you. Oh, I forgot. You broke your neck. You can't swim. You know what I mean? And he was like, they didn't even want to do the promos because they felt bad. I mean, Angel will tell you, I don't know if he was there then, but I walked in the locker room the first night with the halo on after a few weeks. And everybody, I mean, even Paul was just in shock. Nobody knew what to say to me. You know, we always have guys with knee surgeries, you know, being in the locker room and everybody would be fine with it. But nobody walked in our locker room with a halo on, you know what I mean? So Fonzie broke the ice by hanging up his jackets and his shirts on my halo and made it look like a coat rack, you know, and that's when everybody started laughing and everybody loosened up because everybody was, you know, they thought I was fucking crippled, you know, and because it was legitimately in my skull, you know, and I'm like, nah, man, I'm all good. I'm going to heal up. I'm coming back and we're doing this angle. And then working with Shane was awesome. We went to every single city. We really worked great together. I mean, he would put me up for a tombstone to try to break my neck. We would shake it, reverse it. You know what I mean? We would go for another move. You know, we would do a cartwheel, reverse it. You know what I'm saying? So we thought we were going to be against each other in the first ECW pay-per-view. So that's what we were doing. We were getting our match together. In each town, we would add a different spot. So we knew come first pay-per-view that ECW was doing, it was going to be me versus him because I broke my neck. But what happened was Paul didn't want to do that because at that point, our angle was starting to get over more than Taz and Sabu's angle, okay? Yeah. And they were working on that for 3 fucking years. But we had more heat. I mean, when Shane Douglas shook my halo and threw me to the ground, people literally jumped the guardrail to attack him at that arena and tried to kill him, okay? There's only been 2 incidents of white heat like that in the business. Once it happened back in the day, I don't know if it was NWA or WCW, and then it was ECW, you know, where people literally believed it so much they jumped the guardrail and tried to attack Shane Douglas. I mean, he got out of that ring so fast, him and Francine ran through the locker room, out of the locker room, into their car. You know, Franchise thought he got shot or stabbed. He didn't know what happened. But we knew at that night when he threw me down, we had something special, and people were following it like crazy, you know. And we were just, like I said, I was kind of disappointed because, like I said, we were ready for that pay-per-view. You know, instead, Paul put Anthony with Shane, which, you know, it was a good, the match wasn't what it was supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, it should have been more brawling and fighting instead of spots. You know what I mean? And Shane knew it. Anthony knew it. I knew it. You know, they put me out in the audience, and I did a spot where I attacked Shane, and that was my spot that night on the pay-per-view, and I personally thought I should have been in the ring that night. And like I said, you know, we were taken away from Sabu and Taz's gimmick because they, like I said, they were pushing that for 3 years, man, until we got that first pay-per-view. And like I said, everybody's angles. I mean, you got angles with Tommy Dreamer and Raven. You got angles with Sandman and Raven, you know, especially the one where Raven took his wife and his kid and turned them into junkies. I mean, that's a great angle. Like, Vince couldn't follow our storylines, bro, because people believed it. You know, even when Hack got crucified that night. I mean, Kurt Angle came in the fucking building that night for 5 minutes, brother. He saw that. He turned around and said, I can't be a part of this company. I am out of here, man, and ran right back to Vince because he was going to come work for us. He was going to work for Vince. Him and Vince had a misunderstanding, so he came to fucking ECW out of the blue. Kurt Angle, a gold medalist. A badass motherfucking wrestler. Okay, that's a shooter, bro, right there.
Yeah.
And he looked at what we were doing and said, I can't do this, and left. I'm a gold medalist, and ran right back to Vince. And Vince was happy as shit because Vince is like, now I got him. Because Kurt Angle wanted a certain amount of money, and Vince was like, no way. I don't care if you're a gold medalist or not. You'll earn it eventually, yeah. You know, but, you know, if we had guys like that were there to work for us and seen what we were doing and said, I can't do this, and leave. That was funny, man. That was a pretty crazy event, you know. So, but like I said, our angles and storylines. I mean, even the Baldies had great storylines and good angles with their guys that they went against. I mean, we always did. That was one thing Paul was a genius about. You know,
yeah, he
always will be. You know, I can't take anything away from Paul Heyman. He's a genius when it comes to the business.
Yeah, man, he has the brain for the business. Like I said, we can't take that away from him because he could come up with like storylines that are like, wow, it's just I don't know what goes in his brain, how he just develops these angles and stuff. But he's a genius, bro. He's a Picasso of his time for storylines.
You know, Angel will tell you too. We would go to the show. You know, there's nothing set up yet. There's no matches set up yet. Paul Heyman's sitting at a table and he's just thinking. He's looking at everybody. It's in the locker room, and that's how he sets up the match. Because I remember I'd go up to the table and be like, what are we doing tonight? I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I don't know yet. finally we would be like, you know what? I don't care what we're doing. And we would just sit back and wait for him to come up to us, and he would say, okay, guys, this is what you're doing. And that's how it was, you know? So, but for him to like sit there and pull that shit out of his ass right there and then, I mean, that's a genius, man. So,
well, fans are going to want to get your book after. I feel like we're just, scratching the surface, so to speak, about your story. Fascinating stuff for not only hardcore ECW fans, but modern fans that would benefit from the knowledge that you drop in your book. Where can they pick it up, Gary, and where can they find you otherwise on the social media gimmicks?
I have a Facebook, Gary Wolf. I am on Twitter. I'm not too, I don't know the account and shit like that. But you can get my book, Pitbull Unleashed. Tells a story of the Pitbulls, how we started, what we had to go through to become professional wrestlers, and what you would have to do if you're going to become a professional wrestler. You get it on Amazon, Walmart.com, Barnes and Noble. It's selling everywhere. At one point, we were number 3 book, where Natty's book from the Natty Neidhart's book was number 1, and we ended up being number 10 out of all sports books, which is pretty cool. But we were we got down to number 3 as far as wrestling books. So everybody go out there, buy it, come and see me at a signing. I'll sign the book for you. It's awesome. A good read. It's a fast read. I mean, it's something you can get through. It's like 196 pages, but you get through it quick because it's once you start, you don't want to put it down. You just keep going, and because there's always a surprise on every different page. You know what I'm saying?
Well, hey, Gary, you need to like do a pop-up book or an audio book because Jack can't read. So if you could get that next level for individuals of his caliber, then you know.
Well, I am Canadian, right?
I was thinking about getting it on tape.
That's awesome. Well, fans, you're going to want to grab it, especially Christmas coming up for the wrestling fan in your life. Gary, want to thank you so much for coming on today. Always a pleasure to chat.
Yeah, Gary, man. Like I said, I'm always happy to see you, man. I can't wait to see you on another show. You know, and we definitely got to hang out. We never really go out to eat anymore, man. I guess we're getting too old, man, but we got to get hang out just for a little bit.
Yeah, next show, definitely. I mean, I got some shit coming up. I'll be in Glasgow, Scotland, November 14th to the 16th, working for Valor, which is they have TV going there. I will be in Nutley, New Jersey, November 8th. Come out, check it out. I'll be at WrestleCade right after Thanksgiving. So make sure you guys come out there, check it out. Like I said, I'll have the book with me. You could buy the book and I'll sign it right there in front of you guys. So we got some stuff coming up, and I'm doing a dog collar match against somebody named Crowbar in Scotland. So I hope they're ready because I am the king of dog collar. I look up to Greg Valentine and Roddy Piper's great dog collar matches that they used to have, and I studied them well, and that's why it's my match now, and I'm a master at it. So this guy in Scotland better have his insurance policies locked in because I'm coming for him.
Right on, brother.
Mm-hmm. But we'll definitely hook up, Angel. Next time
Sure.
we're together, we definitely got to go out and have some dinner, have a couple drinks, and you know what I mean? Just talk about the great stuff we used to do, bro.
Absolutely. And we're at that age, we get half off on our meals, so we're not gonna be spending that much money.
Yeah, man. we get the senior discounts.
That's awesome. Well, once again, thanks, Gary, and we'll keep in touch.
Thanks,
and hope that the book continues to kick ass on the charts.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Love you, brother. Angel,
Love
you take
too,
it
brother.
easy, man. The family, tell them I said what's up. I see your partner, Vito, once in a blue moon. So the Vito's around me. He's about an hour and a half from me. So every once in a while, if I'm at a show in Florida, I see him, and we do hang out with each other. And we just need you with us, man.
Definitely. One day, man. Definitely, brother.
Yes. Thank you again, brother. I appreciate it, Jack. It was a privilege being on your show.
Thank you very much. Take care.
So how the fuck come you always put the fucking book in front of my face? I'm the fucking celebrity. Why don't you put it in front of your fucking face?
That's just
white privilege. White privilege.
That's just one of those StreamYard StreamYard quirks. I knew you'd object to that. But man, what a great interview. I can't encourage the fans enough to grab his book. He's extremely what a storyteller, and definitely a bona fide legend such as yourself. I like that you got into a little bit about the London, Ontario hardcore road trip. You guys did tear it down there the first go around in 2013. So always good to talk to Mr. Wolf. The final thought for this episode, though, goes to you, Kingpin. Do you want to
motherfucker, don't put the book in front of my face next time.
What, like this?
You can't do it now.
Yeah,
racist.
I can move it over.
Racist.
I'll move it over.
No, but yeah, man, that was a great show. I love Gary, man. He's an awesome dude. The man is just a legend, and he has just had a lot of knowledge. And he loves, he could tell a story, man, and it just keeps you engaged and stuff. And like I said, it's great having him on.
Absolutely. Well, I know you've got to get back to training and preparation for this.
No, I got a doctor's appointment. I got to put on my contacts.
Okay, well, kayfabe. What we're talking about here is just training, because I know you're planning on ending the career of Big Daddy Oreo on December 6th, and I'm all for that. So appreciate your time as well. Always, fans. That's it for.
Also, since we were talking about balls a little while ago, we should get sponsored by Dude Wipes.
Okay, well, I'll leave that in your capable hands. Until next time, fans, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ringside Riffs. Entertaining as always, and we wouldn't have an episode without that run-in. Take care. Thank you for watching this video. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Cheap Heat Productions. Don't forget to hit the notification button, and you won't miss any of our upcoming interviews, recurring programs,